Life has never changed as quickly as it has in the last 5 to 10 years. Also, there are no clear solutions. I can give you this presentation now. I could have written this in a completely different way to what I'm going to share with you today, because there are trends, counter-trends that are all existing simultaneously. And basically, the way I look at trend forecasting now is it's about coping solutions. If change is coming, what can you do to make sure that you're ready for it, as ready as you possibly can be, by being prepared to keep changing? So, the skill, if we're talking about the future of education, that we need to teach our children is the skill of reinvention. I don't even know if we should be teaching our children languages anymore, because what is the point when there is going to be a system or an AI bot that can do that for you? My daughter's learning PowerPoint at school, which I think is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard of, because it's like, what skill is that teaching them for the job of a future that they don't even know they're going to have? So there's the 4 C's that Harari talks about, and I'm sure people have been talking about them today and throughout this conference: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. So if we teach anything in our schools and universities, those are the 4 things we should be teaching. So before I dig into the future of work and learning, I want to ask you a couple of questions. So my brother, who's a barrister, says you only got a proper job if you can describe it with 1 word. Put your hand up in this room if you can describe your job or the job you hope to have with 1 word. Wow, that's pretty good, actually. That's more than I expected. Okay, put your hand up if your parents understand what you do for a living. That's not bad. My parents have no idea. They think I'm a journalist, and that's what I was 20 years ago. Okay, put your hand up if you think you will have the same job in 5 years' time. Keep your hands up if you think you'll have the same job in 10 years' time. 20 years? What is your job? Huh? You're a designer? Yeah? Well, I hope so, for your sake. The point of asking that question is, we are going to have to keep evolving what we do, at least at a minimum every decade, and that number might reduce. In terms of our career path, the portfolio career is not something that just belongs to Generation Z. It's going to be something that belongs to all of us. Okay, so another quote from Harari. He says, "We have no idea what the world will look like in 2050. So if anyone tells you that they do know, they don't know. If anyone tells you it's going to look like a science fiction novel, that's as correct as someone who tells you it's going to look like no science fiction novel you've ever read, because we don't actually know. We don't know what people are going to do for a living. We don't know what the job market's going to look like, and we definitely don't know what skills we're going to need. So much of what your kids are learning today is going to be irrelevant by 2050, which is really hard if you're a parent like me and you're trying to get them to do their homework. So, I went too far. So, if I'm talking about the future in the world of work, I'm talking about the idea of future-proofing fluidity. That's anything that we can do in this space. So if you're kind of thinking about Workplace 2.0, you guys are probably going to tell me it's 3.0 or 4.0, but we're living in this landscape. So you've got these questions over job security. What does job security look like in the future? How are we going to educate our children for this uncertain future? And what role is technology going to play? These are kind of the questions that come to me from brands, and I also work with a lot of educational institutions who are saying, I don't know how to get people to come study at our universities. How are we going to keep our universities open? So we need to find some systems, some structures, and also build the workspaces that allow fluidity to thrive within them. But we have to also not get rid of the human connection, because yes, people want flexibility, but they also want an emotional connection to their work. So I'm a big fan of the robots. I have no problem with them, but let's not forget about our uniquely human skills of empathy, instinct. Also, we need to learn to evolve at a much faster pace in terms of what we're teaching our children. Because if we're going to prepare them for this future workplace, how we are teaching them in their schools needs to be evolving at a really constant pace. So I kind of think we're venturing into the unknown, and it's a case of constantly upskilling. Upskilling was a word that was quite popular about 4 or 5 years ago, but actually it's still accurate. We need to be upskilling ourselves all of the time. One of my favorite words is the word amelioration. Does anyone know what that means? No, so amelioration basically means betterment, that we want to get to a place that's better, where you're the best version of yourself. So my version of amelioration is completely different to everybody else's in this room, but it's about how can I get to the place where I'm the best version of myself mentally and physically, and that's what we're doing, upskilling all of the time. We must think about collaborative curriculums. It's kind of insane if you think about it that we, in many institutions, I don't know about here, we still separate the sciences from the arts. So students are learning in silos when the working world has nothing to do with silos. Also, we're not teaching business skills to fashion design, graphic design, UX designers. We're teaching them how to do their trade or their creative skill, but we're not teaching them how to be an independent worker of the future. Also, we're just cramming too much content into people. There is so much content out there that you have no idea which of it is valid, which of it is true, and if it's even useful to you. So when people criticize the younger generations and they say they have short attention spans, I totally disagree with that. They don't have short attention spans. They have the ability to filter content a lot quicker than my generation and the older generations. So we need to learn how to make sense of all the information out of there. We've got to get out and learn by doing, not learn by rote. That doesn't work anymore. And we've got to accept, except for my friend at the back, that basically the job that we have now may well not exist in 10 years' time. So thinking that we're going to stay in it is kind of foolish. So what do we need within this new world? We need safety nets. The gig economy is growing and growing, but it's also starting to grow up. So a lot of us are becoming independent workers. I know in the UK, 40% of the economy is going to be freelance by 2020. But there are lots of unanswered questions about what do you do with an untethered workforce. There have been some really horrible examples of people within the gig economy with sexual harassment. There's no HR departments, that the protection is not there in the way that it used to be. So yes, flexibility is really highly appreciated, but what about nurture and taking care of people when things go wrong? So solutions starting to be put into place by governments, yes, but also there's a lot of new startups and interesting things going on. It's kind of like a new version of unions. Like back in the day, you would have a union who would protect you in the workforce, but that's having to come from smart thinkers and startups now. This is Trupo. So Trupo basically is insurance for freelancers. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. So you pay between $30 to $50 a month. It's just in the US right now. And if you can't work because of illness, Trupo is going to pay you out 50%. Now, if any of you are freelancers like me, you normally work from your bed. If you're sick, Trupo is for that point when you can't even do that. You're too sick to even work from your bed, and they will help you pay out some disability allowance. This is Banzai. So Matt Brown, he created this startup called Banzai that basically, it helps you tackle the things you don't know how to do. You might be a fantastic designer, but you've got no idea how to do your admin or your invoices or anything like that. So he's currently got about 10,000 freelancers using his platform across the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia. And it's doing really simple things like expenses, reporting, putting your invoices out there for you so you can just concentrate on the thing that you're really good at. And I said it's not really governments, it's startups, but actually in New York, where we work adopting every free bit of real estate that there is, the mayor's office have come in and opened a city-sponsored freelancing hub. It's really great. So they offer marketing classes, budgeting classes, legal clinics, and also free co-working spaces. So we are seeing some more forward-thinking governments and state legislators getting involved in protecting the freelancers because they recognize how, oh God, I'm going too slowly, freelancers within their cities. So some sort of provocations within this safety net space. How can employers or organizations offer flexibility and security to their workers at the same time? How are the workers of the future going to plan for their retirement? Something we all need to think about. I know in the UK there won't be any state pension by the time I retire. And what if co-working memberships actually came with an insurance policy and a retirement package? So it's like, do the co-working spaces now have a responsibility to the people that are using them? Next up, I wanted to talk quickly about the idea of ethical workspaces. So people, I hate the word consumers, people, human beings, are starting to question all of their purchasing decisions from an ethical point of view. Everything we do, from where we go on holiday to the food that we put in our mouths, is a political decision, a political and ethical decision. So of course we're applying that to the world of work too. So workers want transparency, they want sustainability, and they want the ethics of somewhere they work to mirror the ethics that they have themselves. So they're questioning the sort of the patterns and the practices of work. They want fairer working weeks, but they also want fairer recruitment processes, and they want the spaces that they spend their time in to reflect their values back at them. This is SurveyMonkey. They've just opened a mindfulness room in their office. Now, obviously, the word mindful has been bandied around for quite a long time, but what I like about this is the space is completely analog. You can go in there and do a jigsaw or a colouring book. You are allowed to do an e-learning course, but only for a limited amount of time that you're in there. But it's just giving your workers somewhere that they can go and reflect and de-stress. Microsoft have announced in August this year that any suppliers that they work with have to offer their employees paid parental leave. They won't work with any partners that do not at least offer a minimum of 12 weeks to both sets of parents for parental leave. And this is Caption, which was released by the advertising agency McCann. What's interesting about Caption is it's a completely unbiased recruitment tool. So recruitment, like education, needs to catch up with the future workplace. So basically, it's a comic book story without any words, and you, as an applicant for a job, have to fill in the story in the comic book. And then it's basically, so it's completely unbiased recruitment. One of my big clients is the British Council in India, where they have probably one of the most fast-growing technological industries in the world. And my client said, I can't find anyone to work in our digital teams in Delhi. And I said, why not? And they said, well, we've told them they have to have 10 years experience. I'm like, right, therein lies your problem. So it's about rethinking how you recruit and basically hiring people based on what they can become. So in terms of provocations on the ethical workspace, in what ways can employees help people to live more balanced and more productive lives? Also, what ethical considerations can you make as an employer or an organisation? It's about your employees, it's about your partners too, it's about food, like the WeWork spaces. No meat is allowed on any WeWork campus around the world. It's also about your footprint in the community. Okay, let's talk a little about learning. So it's estimated that 65% of children entering primary school will work in roles that don't currently exist. So we might feel quite confident about our jobs, but we really shouldn't. So there's a need to teach our children these key skills, the adaptability, the creativity, and the problem solving. Another big problem that is facing universities, and I feel a little bit bad saying it in a university space, is alternate education. There is a changing perception about the value of spending lots of money on going to university. So future workers don't want to do that anymore. They're looking at alternate pathways to learning. So they're creating and collaborating and finding new solutions with their peers. If you think about it, Generation M, mobile, has the ability to test any ideas or learn any skills they want without ever having to set foot in an institution like this. I'm sorry to anyone who's in the room. So, what's happening in this space? This is WeGrow. Don't know if you guys have seen WeGrow. So WeWork have now opened their own school. I was there 2 weeks ago, and the children were selling produce that they'd picked on a farm in the headquarters of the New York office of WeWork. And basically, WeWork don't like the education system. It doesn't think they are preparing people for the future, and they've said that children need to understand the superpowers that they have. So they opened a school that has focused on creating a culture of kindness, conscious entrepreneurship, and a connection to nature. So you've got brands moving into the education space. Burberry, the fashion brand, has just opened a school in Yorkshire in the UK as well. I'm not going to show the video because I'm short on time, but there's a lovely video you can watch of the children having a great time if their parents can afford to send them there. So, I can't move it on. Can you move to the next slide, me? It's a very nice space.
It's like somebody designed a school based on our wit.
Ah, there we go. This is Dreambox. So this is a maths education software. So basically, it's being used in a number of classrooms across the US. So it's adapting to each student's skill level, and it's letting children learn at a pace that's better suited to their needs. So we're seeing the gamification of the recruitment process of getting a job, but also in terms of teaching children, let's not tell them they can't be on their phones or their iPads, and let them use software like this to test their real skills. Prudential, it's not a company that you think of as being particularly exciting, but they're an insurance firm. And basically, they've decided that they need to partner up with somebody to upskill employees to keep them working for them. So they've got new solutions such as an AI chatbot and an e-claims service, and they're all being developed in partnership with Skills Future. So rather than people feeling that they can't keep up with the pace of change, they're actually educating their employees by partnering with someone that can help them. Okay, so provocations for learning, the idea if university is unaffordable, what alternative pathways for learning might develop. Also, if brands are stepping in where traditional institutions are lacking, what does that mean? The power of the brand becomes ever greater with situations like that. I'm going to talk a little bit about AI. I'm not an AI expert, and I'm sure you've had lots of brilliant presentations on it, but you can't talk about the future of work without talking about artificial intelligence. Basically, the role of machines in the working world is finally coming to fruition. So we don't need to be frightened about it. In fact, a recent study said that by 2020, there are going to be 2.3 million jobs generated through AI, instead of everyone being terrified that the robots are going to take their jobs. The way I think about AI is it's project management. You're going to have a bot in your team as well as you're going to have someone who comes from a completely diverse background to you. So it's about how can you manage teams that include both and look at ways of like productivity and the changing nature of tasks. So you're giving something very different to your bots that you are doing to your human employees. This is Dom, which is Domino Pizza Chain's new bot I'm quite excited about. So you can order your pizza over the phone with Dom. It's just launched in 20 stores in the US, but it's starting to spread wider. Ford. So Ford have looked at the fact that the exertion that's put onto the human body for the guys that are working in their factories building their cars, and they've got this new exoskeletal vest that basically reduces the physical toll of employees when they're assembling their cars for you. So this is actually putting a robot structure onto a human worker to improve his health, actually. So. And then this is Career Builder, which is an AI recruiter. So it's using artificial intelligence in the world of recruitment so that it's basically showing you job openings that are near your house based on location mapping, but then it's also allowing you to interact with someone to see if that's a job it's even worth you applying for. So within this space, there's only really one question, one provocation, and that is, what can machines what can robots do to reduce your administrative tasks, to basically improve efficiency in the workspace so that we can focus on what I said at the beginning, on being truly human and what our skills can bring. And if we need to nurture our freelancers, maybe we can do that by actually engaging our human skills to make them feel more at home. Malleable spaces, I know I've only got 2 minutes, sorry, I'll go quite quickly. So malleable spaces, you've got 43% of Americans working remotely, so it's 40% in the UK, you've got 43% in the US. So spaces need to be more flexible. People are also looking to integrate their work and their home lives more seamlessly, so they're actually working in quite interesting places as well as their beds with their laptops. This is Fuji Zero. They've basically launched 2 office booths in a Tokyo Metro subway station. So, you know, if you just have to do some work before you get in there, there is a mini booth. It's got a desk and a chair. It's got Wi-Fi, and you can book your space with a mobile app. I'm not quite sure why you offer the tube station on your way to work or home, but it's available for you should you want to. This is the Philips office in London, sorry, not in London, in Prague. They've put 2,000 LED lights into it to basically make sure that the lights are fluctuating with workers' circadian rhythms. Different points in the day, and the lighting and the technology is working alongside you. And then this is Angeli Foundation's office in Turin, Italy, that has sensors all around it. So not only is the lighting, but the temperature is controlled so that you are in your own personal environmental bubble while you're working, and that follows you around the office so that you don't have to, as I do in my office, move the heater closer to me or further away throughout the day. That's basically my environmental bubble. So how can workspaces be better suited to mirror the rhythms of your individual workers? How can technology help that? And where else could a working space exist? Is it a shopping mall? Is it a transport hub? Is it somewhere that we haven't even considered? All right, things to remember to make you look interesting when you're meeting at work tomorrow or in the back at university. Workers want flexibility, they want an emotional connection, but they also want security from working in an agile system. So how can you put some systems in place when things go wrong? Workers are expecting transparency, sustainability, and ethics that mirror their own. So they're questioning the patterns and practices of work. They want fairer, more balanced weeks, and they want more balanced recruitment processes. AI is coming to fruition, basically to aid productivity and change the kind of tasks that the robots do versus what the humans do. But also we're expecting more from our time in the office. We want spaces that blend really seamlessly in and out of our home and work lives. So, final words, if you go back to the beginning, the future is uncertain in every category, so the future of work is uncertain. If you try to hold on to one stable view or one type of identity, you are going to make a huge mistake. You need to be flexible, and you need to lean into the chaos of change. And luckily for me, at 45, which is not that far off for me, I've still got many decades of radical change ahead of me. So, you know, the future looks quite bright. Thank you.